This is Jim Becker Live. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. It's kind of like a stormy little day. We've had some crazy winds going through the Chicagoland area, and it's been raining for, 4 or 5 days, kind of straight, and pouring and windy, and wow, just crazy. Also, remember, I'm not a financial advisor, but Ethereum is at 4,200. I really think by the end of October 31st, we're going to see 5,000 on Ethereum. I really feel that, right? So it's already gone up considerably since the last Monday. I think we were at 3,700, I think, last Monday. And so we're continuing to climb. You're going to see that happen on a regular basis. That, along with some other altcoins, Cardano, Link, there's a whole bunch. So XRP is going through their SEC court case, and the SEC just asked for an extension, so we may be going into 2022 with that. So, today what I really wanted to talk about is how the weakest link impacts the strength of your team. So, have you ever been on a team where it just seemed like things weren't working as well as they should or could? Have you created your own team, handpicked them, or has your team been thrown into your lap and now you have to deal with that? Whenever we're dealing with things like this, we really want to just talk about the idiom. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Or in other words, a team or business is only as strong as its weakest person. This can be applied to all sorts of situations, in work and in your personal life as well. As much as any team likes to measure itself by its strongest people, the truth is the strength of the team is impacted by its weakest link. No matter how much you try to rationalize it, compensate for it, or hide it, a weak link will eventually come to light. Have you been in a situation where the weak link really showed up? Were you on a team where you were the weakest link? I can remember going to a University of Chicago booth for M&A, and I was the weakest link in that cohort. I truly was. I didn't know anything about M&A. And that was 2016. Since then, one acquisition, possibly another one on the way, and then some plan for next year, just merging companies in and really bringing great talent together. It really helps you identify the strong links versus the weakest links. So who is the weakest link, right? How do we identify that? Now, usually people don't want to say their true opinions. They really don't. They don't want to say them out loud, of course. They may not want to point to one person and say that person there is the weakest link. They usually don't do that. It's an internal dialogue that people have with themselves. Hence, not being authentic, not having integrity. Those things will destroy your team. And definitely if it's on a silo, that silo could be destroyed and could corrupt your whole company. One team, one person, one weak link. But you can usually gauge who is the weakest link pretty easily. It's usually whose slack you'll need to pick up. And you may be asking, what's their problem? For everybody, it's different. But there are telltale signs that something's going on. Maybe they're not showing up for the calendar appointment that was scheduled. Maybe they're not used to managing their own time. And now they're coming into your purview where you manage your time and they don't show up for that appointment. Or maybe they're always pointing the finger at somebody else. Well, first of all, I just want to say there's some people's issues are their attitudes. They don't have a desire to change or grow. They really don't. They are happy how things are now. And all you can do with these types of people is to thank them for whatever they have contributed thus far and move on. There is a right culture for people. There really is. Today, your culture may not be the right culture for your weakest link. There may be another culture for them. This is always a conversation piece with other owners, with other companies, that we always deal with trying to talk about the weakest link and the strongest link. And how do we bring this cohort together as one, stronger than the others? I mean, we're all human beings. In humanity, we all bring diversity to a team, a cohort, a silo, a company. Attitude isn't everyone's issue, though. Sometimes people have their own plans for their career, their project, or life. Their purpose and drive is never going to align with what you need it to be. This is another case where at some point you'll just have to move on. If it isn't a difference in agenda or an attitude issue, then sometimes people just can't keep up with their team or co-workers. They're happy how things were and were responsible for their area, but when responsibility grows, business grows, they're not willing to step up to the plate and take on new tasks. Have you been in this situation before? As we're going along with this today, for the next 15 more minutes, 10 minutes maybe, put your comments down at the bottom. Where were you in a situation where something went awry and you identified a weak link? What was the tell that they gave away? Or how did you suffer? Or how did your company suffer? Did you catch it before they brought the team down or the company? They also don't really see the big picture and don't really care to work on their own weaknesses to contribute to a more positive team or a more positive way. These are the majority of your weak links. They really are. You need to look for these. Write these down. Keep them on the short list. Look for them. Help them. In most cases, they really do want to be helped, but they're not going to be asking for it. They don't try to better themselves, or they're not able to better themselves or do it on their own. If you find them on your team, there's only two choices: train them or get rid of them. Give them that opportunity. Have that conversation with them. Consult, coach, mentor. Do a one-on-one with them. Ask them for a 360 on you so that you can see maybe it's something that you're doing that's conflicting with them. Talk about the big elephant in the room, right? Instead of trying to work around an elephant. I wouldn't like to do that. Elephants take a lot of room, and they will smash anything in their way. When I say get rid of them, it doesn't necessarily mean to fire. It really depends on your situation. So just understand that. Sometimes the best option is to move them into another department, a different department, or even just on a different account. Think about that for a second. Could you move a forward into a defensive position? I know Michael Jordan was great at that, right? It wasn't what he was the best at. I mean, the guy was best at everything, right? So you could put him on any team. I mean, he even tried baseball. Why the White Sox, I'm not really sure, but go figure. But on team leaders and businesses, you know, when I look at team leaders in the businesses, they can't afford to have a weak link. And we can't avoid weak links either. Why, do you say? Why can't we avoid it? Because everyone is different. And everyone has their own agenda, strengths, differences. But when you find your weak link, you should always resort to training them before trading them. Train before trading. Honestly, look at that. How often do you put someone on because they were a manager and you say, well, they're a manager, so we don't really have management training. We're just going to put them over there and train them what we train the janitor. It doesn't fly. You're responsible for that. You, as the leader. Training's so important. Education. That's a sustainable thing that we really need to look at as we go forward. Are you educating yourself? Are you educating your team members? Now, unfortunately, the stronger team members usually have to pick up the slack. They really do. For those that aren't really performing. And sometimes it takes others to try and get up to speed, to be able to contribute to your team. The weak link will eventually cause the momentum and the potential of the team to take a downfall and, of course, end in misery. Maybe even have to be brought back to life. Everyone ends up paying the price for this. This will cause friction within your team and resentment, especially you as the leader. No one wants to fall behind because of another person. It's something that's out of their control. Leaders need to really see this. And this is where leadership, being a servant leader, serving your team, you can identify, is this a political agenda thing going on where the politics are trying to sway what's going on? Or is this an actual factual thing? We really have to look deep down inside and do interviews to find out and follow what these habits are of each individual. It all comes out in the end. It really does. And eventually the stronger team members will start to question the team and lead or have the manager's judgment throughout the whole process. Trust will probably be lost if it goes on long enough, and never is it good when your people below don't trust you and your directions. Then things really start to take a downfall. You have to hear, you have to listen what's going on, and have that space, that open space where people can freely give you their advice, what they see from their perception of what's going on. Because your perception could be something completely different than what they see. You have to hear with their ears, hear with your ears, see with their eyes, see with your eyes, and see what's really going on. Not only as, I like to say, the actor, how we play a role in life, we're acting. We have to also observe how are we acting, and then we have to direct on how are we acting, working on our acting, our roles in our life as father, child, spouse, leader. We have to identify that. This brings you to a whole level of self-actualization where you can really make a difference and people really do matter. This is really the greatest risk of keeping a consistently underperforming employee around. All your good people are eventually going to get sick of taking on the extra work and start looking elsewhere. This is one place where you can really work on your culture within your organization, within your team, to really identify what's needed and really make an impact. This is how you fix your attrition really fast. Now, what if you are the weakest link on your team? Okay? I'm sure we all have been at some point in time in our careers or in school. Well, luckily, you can always find a way to turn it around and improve yourself. I've been the weakest link on a team, absolutely. But we learn from those. Back to success is 98% failure. Even if it's a project or a role that you have to have real interest in or aren't great at, maybe you don't have any interest in it whatsoever. There's always a way that you can contribute to that team, a way to bring your strengths to the table. Take a good look in the mirror and ask, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Now, are you willing to put in the effort to improve on these areas or not? It's a question you have to ask yourself. When you're the leader, you have to ask your teammates. People like to only think of the good aspects of themselves, but you can't grow that way. You really can't. Try to see the negative parts and work on those negative parts as you're going along. For example, maybe you are really bad at typing. Let's just use that. There was a point in time that I was just terrible at typing. I didn't even know where all the keystrokes were. I really didn't. Home rule? What are you talking about that? Is that like a baseball term? Home rule for typing, right? And have a lot of mistakes, right? I was having a lot of mistakes and I'd have to go back, and it just seemed a lot longer, arduous task to get the typing done. But you're on a team that has a project to enter in a lot of data into a computer system. Maybe learning how to type and increasing your typing by 10-fold is pretty good. Maybe 5-fold, 2-fold. Your team will probably start to resent you if you keep entering in the wrong data over and over and over again. And someone has to fix all of your work because you're going way too fast, but you're making a lot of errors. How about getting more consistent? How about getting better, faster? You can do it. I really can tell you, you can do it. You just have to apply yourself. Whatever it may be. Maybe it's not typing. Well, I know some of my Becker Logistics employees take typing tests online. And I let you know, I did the same thing. And I didn't like the results that I saw for myself. And now I can type pretty darn fast, a lot faster than I ever could before. And even people started to notice. Plus, my accuracy got better too. Then with practice, it's simple. It's a simple fix just by practicing on a regular basis, whatever it may be. It all starts with the acknowledgement and the measurement of looking at where you really were. Were you at a 0, a 2, a 3? Do you really want to be a 10? You have to acknowledge where you're at, and then you have to measure to get to that next level. Improving your typing is just a small example and quite an easy fix. If you put a little time and concentration into it, you'll see the big change, the big transformation. However, with a large, more complex problem, this process could go a lot better if you just take the time to see if you're doing the wrong thing or if you're just doing it wrong, and then put together a game plan to improve yourself. Asking your team for some insight. Doing that 360. Don't drag your team down because you don't feel like making yourself better or working just as hard as they are. I love working on a team. I love being pushed into an area that I haven't been in before. So let's take a look and see if we have any comments. As a leader, have you ever found it difficult to let someone know they're the weak link and something needs to change? Absolutely. Yeah. It is difficult, especially when people they're trying to put on a good air and they're trying to say, this is how good I am. Look at all the good things I'm doing. But then that one thing just shows up just kind of negative all the time. And then just having that honest conversation of what the big elephant is in the room. Maybe it's someone being in the victim mentality and removing all those obstacles so they don't have to be a victim. Some will rise to championship and move forward, and some will find another thing to be a victim on. Those conversations have been hard over the years, but it opens people up to the possibility of getting to that new level of being where they can really influence their family, their loved ones, their team members, and really make an impact on that team or the company. And maybe head up a new project where they're the leader and they have a team and they'll have a weakest link? So that was a great question. Love the live streams. Thank you so much, Cindy. Appreciate it. So if your team has a weak link that you can't or won't rise to the rest of the team, that happens. Sometimes they just don't want to rise to it or just won't. And you've done everything, but you've done everything to help them, but nothing's happening. You try to help improve that person. You try to help them take action. You're taking action. Are you going to trade them out for another person? Maybe that's what you're doing. As long as a weak link is part of a team, everyone else on the team will suffer dramatically. Don't let it happen. As a CEO, I know you can't always keep everyone happy. Trust me. I try. It's impossible. We're all different. But that's what makes us great. It really does. Being a human being and having this diversity of humanity, we all bring greatness to the team. But we all have to contribute. And we all have a perception. Is your perception seeing something that might be my scotoma? Let's identify it. So, as you lead your team, you can fix this and make the rest of your team happy by just making sure everyone is at the same level and contributing at the same rate. Take a look at your teams this week. Who's your weakest link? Can you take him or her aside and say, what can I do to help you? How can I be a servant leader to you and make this team stronger and better? Before you trade them off, train them. Get them ready. Get them ready for that next journey, that next battle, that next growth, to really be able to think for themselves and contribute to the team. With that, thanks for showing up. If you made it this far, please like, make a comment, and share. If you can share it, that'd be great. Listen, grace and peace be with you. Hope you have a blessed week. Once again, Jim Becker here, signing off. See you next time.